So, for context, John has started doing a vault build sort of thing, and we
Sort
wanted to
of thing.
discuss, yeah, wanted to discuss the experience because I explained this to John, and John was like, yeah, yeah, and now we were just talking. It's like, yeah, it really is true.
Yeah. So I'm currently recording a YouTube video, first time in like ages, about my adaptions and I'm still trying to like figure out what to call it because it is based on Josh Plunkett's template, but has elements from someone else's that I can't remember her name.
Oh, Nicole.
It has elements of what Nicole has, and I've kind of smushed them together and then used metadata menu, which I don't understand why neither one of them use that. I just don't understand.
That's a Danny influence.
Yeah, that is it. I mean, I love it. I just loved it from the beginning. As soon as I saw how we used it in the joint vault, I'm like, wait, that is so much more simple. Because I basically have relations without using DB folder.
Yeah.
I have relations because I'm able to connect my NPCs with where they come from and where they are, my player characters with where they come from and where they currently are in the game. And I'm just like,
And I think the best part about MDM, metadata menu, MDM is far easier than saying metadata menu over and over and over. I got sick of typing the thing. Uh, yeah, I think the good thing about it is because it's obviously property based, Obsidian property based, you're not doing anything overly complicated in the plugin itself. You're just looking at a modal or the hotkeys and changing words in the file, which you would do inside the file anyway. It saves clicks and adds constraints to the clicks because Obsidian default properties, obviously, when you click it, gives you everything. You're like, I don't want everything.
yeah, it's so good. It's just so good. I love it. So I've been building that out, and as I've been going, I've been like, cool. This is a thing I could do with quick add buttons because I like buttons. Okay, cool. Let's go try that. And then I go back to my actual space where I actually do things in rather than the demo vault. And then I'm like, damn, I've lost all of those really cool things. And the act of migrating what I had before to what I have now, because all of the files are actively used. I would usually just change it when I touch it. But as I've created like full-blown dashboards for each of my parties, because that means I can actually see all of the moving pieces on a party basis, and because I have my MDM, I can have it automatically find the parties because I have a file folder note and all that magical, really nerdy stuff, which will come in the video, which will be next week, because we'll talk about the video next week. Because now I know what's going on with my body, I can now actually get it to almost do what I want.
It's nice when the body works the way you want it to work.
At least what was interesting for me, which is completely side tangent, but might be helpful. It's like once I had that awareness of what was going on, because I didn't know. I didn't know didn't know what the problem was, but now I know. I'm more attuned to the symptoms that I'm experiencing, and I'm like, okay, cool. This means I actually need to sit down now. Versus this means I just need to keep going.
I find it interesting how, because obviously we've discussed about the labels, categorizations, etc., from like medical diagnosis. It's interesting how the way I see it anyway is there is a difference between a physical diagnosis, something that is physically attuned with the body. Like you're not going to not have it. It's not a person by person experience. There is something that's like physically happening with the body, biology, and you will get these symptoms. Whether you get them now, later, at another point, you will get them. Whereas with a mental health disorder, I don't think that's accurate, but I can't think of another way to categorize them all. They might happen or they might not. So you can't prepare for something that might not ever happen. Well, I guess you could prepare for something that never happens, but then you're restricting yourself on something that hasn't happened yet, which is the limitation of the labels and the categories that we've discussed previously. And I find it interesting that when you discuss about Well, when you just said about, I now know what to look for, what to be aware of, etc., etc. They're biology things. They're physical organism things.
Yeah.
They're not really environment related.
Mm.
That is where I think the health system works,
Yes.
like with its diagnosis, and that is what I like about the diagnosis of health systems. The mental health, again, using it because lack of a better term, well, lack of a term that's widely understood.
Yeah.
I think those sorts of diagnosis and categories and labels are or can be misleading.
Yes. Absolutely.
So interesting.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting we're talking about that now, because with sort of pivoting back to Obsidian, when it comes to classes and labeling files in classes, I'm curious how you go about doing that, because obviously talking about labeling here with biology and like mental health, with biology there's obvious properties of like the physicality or what you can and can't do. Inside of Obsidian, it's much more abstract with the way that you're labeling and categorizing files and classes, or folders and files and things that's going on. And it's a question inside of the Discord as well. Like, how do you decide what class the file goes in?
Yeah, that was one of the things. So I think I had it a little easier because obviously I know what I wanted and I knew what labels would be really helpful. But even I have found myself expanding my labels, like the classes that I'm using. So I have my overall class, which just contains like 3 properties, which is it 3? I never remember. Yeah, you get those feelings where you're just like, yeah, it's 3, probably something like that, but I don't actually know because I just use it. Yeah, 3. So I have the type, which is like it pulls in all the class names. Then I have aliases because some of the names are really hard to write. So I need to be able to just put an alias quickly and easily. I don't have to worry about it. And then there's the world, which chooses the world folder because I run multiple campaigns in different worlds, ranging from like Faerun, which is the default D&D world, to my own campaign world. And I actually have it as a select function with query. And then outside of that, I have it choose one of the types, which is once again a select function using a DB query. So it's just like, yeah, I'm just like, yeah. And then I have things like guilds and groups. One thing I did do, which I'm still like 50-50 on, is I have an NPC class. And then I have what I call a star NPC class, which is a subclass of an NPC, because the normal NPC is just someone in the world. I need to have a little bit of information about them, but they're not like a core like person that they interact with that has too much depth to them. They have enough just to be able to play them. But then you have the star NPCs, which have their own passions, their own drives, which what the party does always influences them, based off of video gaming stuff and really interesting fun stuff that I found. And so having both of them is quite an interesting thing. And as I was writing everything out to script, I was like, how do I explain that one? How do I explain that one? How do I explain that one? How do I explain? Because I tried just talking, and that was almost impossible. Because I was just going here to that. I see why so many like Obsidian YouTubers just talk for an hour. Because it's just so easy to jump around because the guide rails are not really there.
Yeah. So how do you reckon I managed to do my videos and them not be like hour long? Because most of mine are like 10, 20 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know. I assume it's just you practicing it over and over again.
No, it's a one run.
I don't know how. How? Teach me your ways.
It's so when you were to, if you were to listen to me record, you'd be like, what is going on? Because what I'll do is I will record whatever section it is. So I will do the first bit, and then I explain something, and then I stop moving my mouse and I sit there and I think, okay, what do I want to say next? rather than trying to fill in the gaps and explain things as I go, I sit here and go, okay, what makes sense to say something next from this point? Then I'll go through that bit, and then again, I'll stop the mouse. So on the screen, it doesn't look like I've moved much. And I'll just stop saying. So even though I've recorded for maybe 40, 50 minutes, I'm only speaking for 20, 25. And when I'm saying something, it's something important. And then I'll cut out all like the typey bits and things that I've added. So it manages to whittle it down rather than speaking to fill in the gaps or saying something that isn't really helpful. But again, it sort of fills in the gaps whilst they're trying to organize, move things around. I just don't say anything and then say, okay, this is what I'm doing next, sort of thing. To cut
Do you
out
kind of have that pause where you're like, okay, cool, you want to say this one thing, and then you just stop once you said what you have to say. So do you have like a bullet point list of what you're doing, or or like a flow of what you're trying to do? Because I think that's the bit that I'm finding the hardest, as I was trying to say, where do I start? Like, which part do I begin with? Because obviously you have to make it interesting enough for people to actually want to watch it. And I'm like, what is the most fun and exciting piece to hook people in, to get people interested? Because one thing that's quite hard is I don't find any of this interesting because it's my thing. So trying to step outside of that and be like, okay, where do I begin? And how much information do I provide? I'm someone who likes to give all of the context, which basically means it's an hour-long video before I even start.
The way I approach it is I have main points that I want to get across. So sort of like the, as you were saying, minimum viable system. What is the minimum amount of information that person needs to know when watching the video? Like, if you were to just give that person the vault, is there something like, what would be the things you want them to know about? Typically for me, that is, this is the view, the dashboard, the main space you're going to navigate. Do they care about all the intricacies? Probably not in the video. Maybe if it's required. So, I add something in, and then I will sit there and stop and go, do they need to know how I've added something in this case? Some votes, they don't really need to know. They can figure it out, it's quick add, or they don't know, so they get the vote and then they realize, it's quick add. Others, maybe it's a quick add that specifies a template folder that goes into a folder that uses a template of script, in which case I will then go in and say, and that's done through quick add, and then quickly go in, explain the thing, then go back to the point.
So if it can't be explained by having the actual plugin, the vault with you, then you explain it. But otherwise, you expect them to look at the vault and just kind of move their way through it. That's really helpful, because that was one of the hard parts. I was like, okay, cool. I was going to talk about the background of why I did it, and I'm just like, no one cares. I was like,
the thing is, a lot of people in Obsidian, and this is including our audience, they are not dumb.
No,
they're not stupid. They can figure it out. And that's what I found frustrating about the long videos and a lot of the explanation videos of Obsidian users, because they assume beginner. And when you assume beginner, they don't assume Obsidian beginner. They assume tech beginner.
Yeah.
Which isn't a bad thing. And I also assume tech beginner when I'm explaining some elements. But when you assume like tech beginner in a setup or a vault build, you end up trying to explain how the entire plugin and all of the code works, which for those that already know this is boring. And it means like 50% of the video is redundant to them. So YouTube doesn't like that, because then they click off or they just skip through half the stuff. It's also frustrating as a viewer, because if you do know the stuff, you're skipping through. And if you don't know the stuff, you're going backwards and forwards through the same stuff over and over to try and understand what they're saying. But because the video is not about explaining the code, it's about explaining the setup, there's normally bits missed, which when I watch some of the videos from other creators on Obsidian, I sit there and go, I know why you've done that, and I know how you've done that. But you haven't explained these two things that I think are critical for someone coming in that don't know that. But the point of the video wasn't to explain that plugin or that bit of code or how that code block works. The point of the video is to explain the setup. So they sort of add more information, but it doesn't help those that know, and it adds confusion for those that don't know.
Yeah. And that's quite a hard balance, because I'm very much one to just explain everything, because I find the setup more interesting than the overall thing, because when I step back from it all, I'm not thinking about MDM and data view. I'm just thinking, okay, cool, I got a session to plan, let me get the notes done, press a button, off I go, diddly do, go 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 go. So I don't need to think about all these little intricacies, because I just know. And so trying to create a video.
But that's it. That's what I would prefer the video to be, like me as the viewer, and me as a creator. I try and cater towards myself as the viewer. One, it makes making videos far easier because I'm not sitting there explaining boring stuff and frustrating myself. And two, I think from a learning perspective, like looking at the educational science elements of creating videos, like if you give them the environment to learn in, I push this button, then this drop down comes up. If they have a question, they go, how did you do that? I will download the Vault and see how you created that. Or they go, oh, that's cool. And then they just carry on.
Yeah.
So if they want to know, they can go find out. If they go find out, they're more likely to learn.
Hence why the first thing you told me to do was make a Vault.
Yes.
But that was the thing, you're like, make a Vault. Make a damn Vault. I'm still trying to figure out how much of the Vault is because of course, some small elements are left over from obviously Josh's templates, and I'm like, I won't give that. That's just weird and wrong. And then a lot of it is inspired by, but completely rebuilt from the ground up by me, because I'm fussy and want my own thing.
Well,
so I'm like,
if you saw my NaNoWriMo video, I used the Canvas Candy CSS. So the video I showed exactly how I use it. But the template download, and I made it explicit in the video, that Canvas Candy isn't mine. It's...
Oh, yeah. Also, Canvas Candy is just awesome. Like, I love Canvas Candy because I'm using it right now. So I've been building up an entire, like, cult inside of the world that I'm in. And I just have this, like, top to bottom, like, who's at the top? Where are they? What are they trying to do? And I'm just like Canvas Candy and everything. I've got the header, I've got the image in the file, and then I got the footer. I'm like, this is so nice, because any other way of doing it would suck. I love Canvas Candy. I'm way too excited about CSS code.
Yeah, it makes it look easier to manage. And when you think about the critiques of Obsidian, a lot of it is, oh, it looks codey, it doesn't look nice. There was a Reddit thread in the Obsidian Reddit the other day about Notion like Obsidian, and they were saying that they can customize things inside of Notion with table views, and it's easier to do. Can you do it? And the I guess the footnote of the whole conversation, because it was a very big thread, was, yes, you can do it in Obsidian, but two things. One, do you really need to? Because is it actually going to increase your productivity? And two, maybe adding the friction to customizing views helps your productivity, because you're not changing views all the time and fiddling around with, oh, I now have a gallery. Do I show this image or that image? Do I add an icon? Maybe I show this piece of property information in the gallery view or the Kanban view, or maybe I add like these 40 other views to the database. You can do it, but there's a friction point of, do I really need to do this? Is this actually going to help, or am I doing it just for the sake of doing it? And that element inside of Obsidian is quite nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Even as I was like, oh, do I need this? Is this important? Yeah, no, it is. Cool, I'll go do it now. Because it takes time.
Yeah.
And trying to figure it out.
It adds a friction point that to me is helpful for being productive in work. It's not too easy that I can get distracted for an hour or two fiddling. Whereas Notion is very easy and you can get distracted fiddling. Though obviously there are pros and cons. Some people would prefer the ability to very easily flick between different things. But that customization, or the ease of customization has its downfalls. Plus, it's not as customizable as Obsidian. So if you wanted to go a little bit further, you would need to learn the complexities of Obsidian. And I'm going to mention it on the podcast because it'll probably be live by now, by the time you hear this anyway, metadata menu. The developer is working on embedded table views. And what that basically means, for those familiar with Notion, is inline databases. For those more familiar with Obsidian, that's data view, but with editable properties and tick boxes. So when you're looking at the table, it shows
that's going to be on my. I'm looking at the home screen of the DM toolkit, which I've got open. My one I'm using. I'm just like, that's going to be on the homepage. That's just going to be. I'm going to have that there immediately.
I can actually share my screen on this as well because it's not doing anything that is naughty. So can you see my screen? I assume you can.
Yeah, sorry, audio viewers. Which, by the way, I'm trying to figure out what went wrong with podcast. Why I'm telling you this now, by the time it'll be fixed, but yeah.
Yeah, so this is the table view of metadata menu, but inside of a test file. So this is just a normal file, as you can see.
Very nice.
There's the file, so I can control, and then there's the page preview. Obviously, there's a template, so it doesn't actually show anything. That's another video, so there's the actual script of the video. It's green because of CSS in my Vault to say it's done. And then I've got the columns of properties that are inside these files. So if I click on video template, there's the property information. And you've got Morgan, and Morgan is there, then channel type, priority, etc. And all of these properties are mapped to, if I click on the code block, the to-do view. So it's a view inside of the video class, and it's to-do. That's literally all the code I've done. Everything else is inside of the metadata menu settings. I was going to say it's going to take a second because it's a big embed. But yeah, and you can click on these. Now, obviously, it's a tick box. There's the drop-down menu, so it's an editable view inside of a file, and it works inside of a canvas as well.
That is very, very nice. I'm a little bit excited.
So I'm gonna stop sharing now. But yeah, so that's metadata menu, inline embedded tables inside of an Obsidian file, which is what a lot of people are expecting data core to do. Because data core should be data view 2.0, the developer's working on it, and it's the ability to query things with data view, but to edit the properties. And yes, there is a blip when you edit a property inside of metadata menu in the table view, because when you do the thing, obviously because Obsidian's all file, it then sort of blips away and goes, give me a second, I need to update that file, and then comes back and shows you the query again. Would it be nice to have it live? Yes, but because Obsidian is file focused, I'm not sure how clean that's going to be, but a quick like blink blip to me is fine. I personally don't see an issue with that. Does it look clunky? Yeah. Does it work? Definitely.
And does it provide me with the flexibility of it being a tiny ass file and not online? Yes.
Exactly. And one of those other benefits that I'm really interested to see how it develops is because metadata menu obviously looks at the property types, it gives you a plus button, which if you just watch the video, go back and you'll see the plus buttons. The plus button is where there should be property information in the file, but there isn't because the file hasn't been updated with the, to use a Tana reference, a super tag for class information. So Tana's super tags that they say no one else has, well, it's in Obsidian, so yes, we do have it. The property information that isn't in the file can still be added even though it's not there. Where that potentially comes in handy is if you update something inside of a class and you need to update all of those files, you can just do it in the view. If you look at the view and go, okay, these three, if you go to active videos, all of these now need this file, you can go into the table view and just plus, and that adds them all. And what this does potentially give flexibility for, I'm not sure how possible this would be, but bulk actions, bulk property actions.
That'd be nice. That'd be very nice. I wish I had bulk actions with just like, I don't have too many. Like, well, I have more files than ever, but I don't have that many. So I have to go through each of them and go, oh, I need to change that. And then, of course, some of the naming conventions are very similar, but I've used different, like, I don't like using capital letters in my properties because it's just Cody wrong. It feels Cody wrong. So I've changed that over, and then I have to figure out which one I'm keeping again, rid of person. Cleaning it up is the fun part.
Yeah, it's so I'm just fiddling around with the calendar, the embed now. So when it comes to like the minimum stuff you need in a system, do you need metadata menu? That's a genuine question. Do you need metadata menu?
As in it depends on the context.
Well, when you're working inside of Obsidian, because obviously you didn't have metadata menu, and some people argue they need plugins. They need like there's a lot of plugins I don't need in Obsidian to work, but there are some that I do.
I could probably do it all without. I mean, it used what was it used previously? I can't remember what it used. So it had something else that was
Meta edit?
fine. There was meta edit in there, but it was just templates. So you could build it into all of the templates, I suppose. Yeah, you don't need it. You just add the things yourself. It's just not as easy, and it's just a shortcut.
Yeah, and that's the point I'm getting at when it comes to like the beginner side of using whatever tool it is, because with those beginner videos, they're not really beginner videos. And this is what I've struggled with making videos, and I think you'll probably find the same. When you do a beginner video, what sort of beginner is it? Is it a beginner in tech? Is it a beginner in Obsidian? Is it a beginner in note-taking apps? Because they're all different sorts of beginners. And when I look at the minimum system people need, all you need is a file. That's it. File and write stuff. But that's a very boring video. It's not going to be very long, and you're not going to be able to repeat that. So when I see people, I've seen comments on my channel saying, "Oh, this isn't beginner friendly." I'm like, what is beginner friendly? Every beginner is going to be different. Some of the videos that I put up that I think are beginner friendly, beginners look at and go, "This is really simple. This is really easy. I already knew this stuff," but they still classify themselves as beginner because they've only been using the tool for like a week.
Yeah.
But they understood it really quickly. So I'm like, how do you even label something beginner? Because some of the beginner videos that I've seen with Obsidian going on, I'm like, you've got CSS in there, you've got custom CSS in there, you've got data view queries in there that use JavaScript. Like, this is not beginner. You need to understand what you're doing and what buttons you're pushing to get this stuff working. So I'm really curious to hear like people's thoughts on what a beginner really is. And when this comes to the coaching and teaching and learning and all that sort of stuff, how do you classify beginner? How do you say this is a beginner? Is it time-based? Is it skill-based? When we're speaking ecologically, we would say they have lower expertise than someone else because they struggle to attune to information in the environment, as well as someone that is like more able. But what does that mean, more able? There you have a comparison between two people. If someone comes into, I don't know, martial arts, if they come into your dojo, or if they come to your football club, or they come into your classroom, wherever, who are you comparing them to say they are more or less able than? And as soon as you add that comparison, well, now you've got a better and a worse student, which shouldn't change the way you teach, but it does. Why can't we coach everyone on their needs? Oh, because you need to generalize things. Yeah, but if you do generalize things, now you're oversimplifying, and now you're not teaching for every beginner, you're teaching for a specific beginner.
I think that for me has been the like self-imposed constraint when it came to producing content, is the assumption that is made with content online is it must be generalized. And that to me sucks. It's like, well, then none of what I say is valuable. Like, as it is valuable, but none of what I say will be useful. Because if I generalize, I am basically saying what everybody else is saying. It's the nuance that changes what I do and why I do what I do. Which is why I don't make content.
But that's where, for me, education, obviously, we can't do, in an ideal world, we would teach everyone one-to-one, but we can't do that. We don't have enough people, resources, money, etc., etc. So we do need to generalize. But generalizing education, I was watching some kitchen pedagogy. It's a teacher head is their online pseudonym or avatar character, whatever you want to call it. But he's a teacher. Well, he's a teacher educator. He was a science teacher, is now a sort of teacher. Like, he teaches other teachers to teach. But yeah, and he was talking about kitchen pedagogy, and he was discussing about the student at the back of the class and saying things that, to me, I learned about like first year coaching, which how teachers don't know this, qualified teachers don't know this, goes beyond me. I think that just shows the lack of ability in teacher education, whether that is the courses lack of understanding, whether it's the teachers just not paying attention to the theory, the science, or them forgetting it during practice for whatever reason. But he was discussing this, the people at the back of the class have a different experience to the people at the front of the class. Obviously, the people on the left have a different experience to the people on the right. That's why I sat on the right, so I could hear. Otherwise, if I sat on the left, I wouldn't be able to hear. And when I look at this person saying, we need to treat everyone equally, I'm like, no, you can't do that, because everyone is in a different environment. Everyone's going to experience something different. So you need to move around the classroom like you would when you're coaching. If you're coaching a group of 30 on a field, you move around the field to go speak with each individual. So even though the lesson is generalized, the overall objectives, however you want to call them, lesson objectives if you're in school, which I find redundant. But if you have a target or a goal, open goal in an ideal world, in mind for the class, get better at X thing, then you can go around and help each individual. On YouTube, you can't go around and help each individual. But if people have questions, that's where the community is. And that, to me, is where the learning happens. So I see the video, this is how I frame it anyway, I see the video as exposure to open goals for people to pick. People can look at a video, a 20-minute video, and go, I really like that thing. I like the drop-down menu of that button. How do I do that? That is a goal they have selected from the information that I've provided. Then if they have questions, I can help them with that. Or they can watch a video and go, that's cool, I know how to do all of that, and then move on. So that's how I differentiate the learning. I give them information, I expose information in the environment, and they can use their own abilities and expertise to pick or not pick what they want to focus on. And then I help them through their journey in doing that thing. If there is nothing they want to do there, then I would argue that's a lesson that they don't need to attend. In school, you don't get that choice. In school, if you're in the lesson and you're given, say, a 20-minute video and they go, right, you're going to do this, you don't get a choice. You've got to sit there for the next 40 minutes. But online, you don't have to sit there. You can go find someone else's video or someone else's piece of content and find something else that's interesting.
Yeah. That's a really useful reframe, because I think one of the hard parts is, as I was starting to make the video, I was like coming up with the bits and pieces and scripting it. I was like, but where? And when is there too much? The minimum viable video, because that's what people need, is the minimum viable video, because otherwise they'll either get really overwhelmed because they just see tons of information that isn't context sensitive. That I think is why MDM is not as popular, because the videos that I watched had zero. They were developer videos.
Yeah.
They were.
The developers even admitted that. We've spoken about it briefly. He was saying that he made the video because he makes the videos because he knows he needs to make videos to explain how it works. But his spoken English isn't great, so he puts captions on there, which is fine. But if you can't read quick enough, or you struggle to read, or you have a question about it and it's just a couple of words on screen, it's very difficult to figure it out. and they're rushed videos. He's not a video creator. He's a developer.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So it wasn't until I saw like your contract, I was like, oh, everyone needs to stop sleeping on this now because it is really cool.
But it's again, it's similar to data view because it is data view, just
Oh yeah.
property editing. But it's very hard, very similar to data view, to explain it all in a video, because you can't just go, oh, it does this thing and you've got these settings, because metadata does all of these things with all of those settings over there as well.
I was attempting, I can show you the page that I was creating, writing everything that I did in it out, just so I had all the context surrounding me. And as I was looking through it, I was like, yeah, that's not going in the video. I'm already bored and I'm about to speak through it.
Yep. The video that I've done on metadata menu, I look back at it and I go, damn, I did a good job of keeping that under like 3 hours.
Yes, you did.
but it's still a really long video that encompasses a lot of stuff that's obviously out of date, because the video is almost a year old now, I think. I know it's been quite a few months. Yeah, exactly. Shock horror. Yeah, I think it's like 8-9 months old, I think. So there's been a lot of updates since. And actually, I don't know whether you saw on the live stream, this is an aside, still metadata menu related. The formula property basically lets you do JavaScript, right?
Yes.
Like literally anything in JavaScript now.
Yes.
Which I now have a property. I'm working on a video. I now have a property inside of my food tracking setup that replicates the rollup. So to conceptualize this for those listening, I have a meal class file. In that meal class file, I have a field that is cost of meal. And inside of that field, the formula field, the JavaScript looks at the ingredients field in the meal class, which is just a select property, then looks at the cost of the ingredient in that class, in that field. So it's looking at the cost of the ingredient, and then it's just adding it up. He's covering his ears because he doesn't want to go ahead and do it. And then I get the cost of the meal inside of that file from the ingredients. If I take out the ingredients in the select list, then obviously the property will update because it needs to update the calculation.
No, I cannot make any more changes. Darn template. Because as soon as I do, I'm going to have to go back and edit the template.
John, I'm saying this now. Don't add this, but I've just exposed you to it.
Yeah, thanks. Cheers for that.
Restraint, personal restraint.
Yeah, when it comes to really cool stuff like that, I have so like, this is quicker, but I'm going to spend the next 3 weeks trying to figure out how to make it.
Obviously, the biggest limitation is understanding of code. Like you have to write the JavaScript to get the formulas to work. You can do basic formulas of this field, add this field, and sum it up. I've done that. I can do that by myself. That's easy.
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, doing the JavaScripty stuff, there's no video on it. The help documentation just says, learn JavaScript. So
yeah, please stop just telling me to do that, because that's not helpful.
But it's what the developers do. Like the developers don't want to do hey, this is how JavaScript works, because that's trying to recreate JavaScript documentation, which is all over the internet. So a lot of the developers, from what I've seen, sort of they explain enough. If you know basic JavaScript, you can get by. But if you don't, they then just direct you to go learn JavaScript. And as soon as I see a link inside of a help documentation that says, go learn JavaScript, I don't bother. I'm like, nope, yeah. I'm not learning to code. I just want to be able to do enough things in Obsidian to work. Which, I mean, I asked the developer, can we do this? And instead of getting a yes, they just gave me the code. And I was like, thanks. But yeah, so that's another one of those things where I'm sitting here like, I could do this and I could do that. And I could explain how all of that code works. But people don't care. They just want it to work.
Yeah. I think that was something that as I was making and just planning it, it became bigger and bigger and bigger. I was just like, oh my gosh, it is just too much to put in a video. It's like, oh, I'll split up the video. I'm like, oh, now I'm doing 2 videos. I was only agreed to do one.
Yeah, and you delayed that. Just you
I did delay it. Yeah, absolutely. I will hold my hand up and just go, yeah, I had to delay it.
When it comes to making the video, do you have any idea what your target length is going to be? This is out of curiosity because I recognize the video could easily be an hour long, but do you want it to be an hour long?
I want it to be as long as it needs to be, which is a really shitty answer.
It's the best answer, but yes, it is a
Yeah.
shitty answer.
Yeah, because when I start getting to a point where I'm like adding a hard time constraint, which is what I would do if I put a number on it, I would instantly switch to, right, it has to be this long. I start the editing is too choppy, and then I'm just not happy, and the quality of the video sucks, and I'm not like although I haven't produced videos, I have all of the skills to produce a video, so I know what looks good and I know what looks bad, and I don't want it to look bad, and that's why I was just like, no, I could make a really shit video, but as a creator, I would not be happy. Like, that is just not taking responsibility. And I know that there is like a balance there, but I know when it's good enough, and I know when it was just going to be not at all useful.
Interesting. Yes. Yeah, there's certainly a balance there, and there's one that I try and sort of obviously navigate.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm not trying to make a perfect video because
they don't exist.
Yeah, they just don't exist. But I want one where I can look at it and go, yeah, all right, that's all right. Because if I like it, and if I'm happy with it, then most people will be happy with it because I consume Obsidian videos.
Yeah, I think if this is kind of like a personal check for me, if I can watch through the video to check for like edit mistakes, and I forget I'm watching my own video, some like at any point in the video, then I know it's a good video.
Yeah.
Even if I don't get tons of views in it, I know it's a good video because I'm interested in it. So this is a bit of a surprise that happened with me on one of my videos. The NaNoWriMo video that I shared is long form writing. It didn't do well. Like, YouTube was telling me this is a bad video because it was 9 out of 10, but I knew it was a good video. And after about 2 weeks, it sat at 4 out of 10 because people that wanted long form writing in Obsidian, like, appreciated the video and wanted the video. So it was a good video. YouTube just hadn't found its audience yet, which it struggles to do sometimes. And the amount of videos I have in Obsidian, people now can come to my channel and be like, I want to learn how to do this thing, and there will be a video for them.
It's certainly given me, like, as we're talking now, I'm like, oh, I could do this for quite a few different software, like specific. This is how you do this thing in this way. Here's the templates.
Because then if they have a question about it, they can come to you and be like, oh, you obviously have expertise because you've done a video about it and it helped me do X, Y, Z. And that's where, coming back to, I think we spoke about this last week, having a community to learn from.
That is exactly where I've been going as well. I just had to, for me, the only problem with community is the time.
But obviously you're in educational science, like you're in our Discord, and obviously a lot of people like to have their own Discord server, be in control, and it's ownership. It's sort of also sort of like semi-ownership of, yes, this is my community, this is my thing. And lots of people have Discord servers. I'm in lots of different Discord servers.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think with the Obsidian stuff, I'll just put it in educational science because I'm a mod there anyway.
For me, the thing that irritates me most about creators and Discord servers and communities, whether it's Discord, whether it's Circle, whatever it is, if the creator isn't in it, it's not the creator Discord. Yeah. And when I say in it, I'm not saying, oh, they do some admin work here and there. I'm saying if they're not actually active in the conversation.
Yeah, that's my point. That's why I haven't made one. because if I'm not in it, what's the point? There's no point in it. So I before I create my own like community of people to answer questions, to do these things, etc., I need to be in it and know I'm in it and happy to be in it. And that's where I like.
One of my biggest gripes with creators with Discords, because I'm in quite a few of them. I'm going to call out a couple because I know they're not going to be listening to this. But I'm in their Discord and I have the conversations with their community members. So Dodford's Discord is about video essays. And obviously I speak with the editors and the people in there. And Dodford's interactions inside of the Discord is sharing his work, which is fine. It's understandable. Obviously, it's his Discord. And then it's talking about his work. And that's kind of it. Like, if other people have questions, he doesn't. Well, I haven't seen him answer any of those questions. It's the community that answer those questions. I'm like, is it really the Dodford community, or is it the video essay community that like Dodford's work? And then it's similar with Zoe B. Zoe B is an educational science creator. She, again, does video essays, long video essays about education. And her community talk loads. And it's a great community. But I don't see her in there often. Maybe it's me just not seeing, but I don't see her in there talking, being engaged in the conversations. I don't know. I just don't see it. I recognize the elements where it sort of like, oh, we'll bring the community together to talk together, which like,
yeah,
great. But they're probably in other communities as well that's somewhat similar.
Yeah,
they probably follow the same either Reddits or in other mutual Discords. And when I look at other people that are in the Tom Nicholas Discord, the Zoe B Discord, the Dodford Discord, they're all in the same sorts of Discords. I look at them like, oh, we're all in the same Discords. Why are we talking in like 5 different Discords in the same time? Like, it's all the same stuff.
Yeah.
I saw your thumb here. Thumbing it up. And I guess just to be clear, in my Discord, the Educational Science Discord, I am in there. If you go into any of the channels, you will probably see my name in the first scroll.
Oh yeah, it's really cool, and that's exactly. Unless I can commit at your level, there's no point for me to do it. Like there is no value in it because people see me like if I'm talking from my own business perspective outside of this little space that we have, because if it's going to be Obsidian related, chances are it's better off with you guys anyway, because it's who it's aimed for. But because as I'm thinking about this, I'm like, okay, cool, I could do this for other tools that business owners use because that would be more helpful. And I'm like, okay, cool. And once I get to that point, it's like that's when it probably will be a little bit that way. But unless I have unless I can commit the same amount of time as you do to it, I'm not going to do it.
I wouldn't even say this. Like you say, time. I'm not on Discord.
Maybe not time. Maybe it's more like the attunement, I suppose, is the best. Like you are in there, in there.
Yeah, I'm in there because I'm interested in the conversations. It's not because, oh, I need to answer this person in Discord. It's I'm interested in how they're using Obsidian or how they see this report or what they're doing with AI or whatever conversation comes up. I'm genuinely interested in the conversations that happen inside of the Discord server. And for me, if you're going to be involved in a community, talking about things that's happening in a community, if you're not engaged in those conversations, why in the world are you talking about it?
Yeah.
And where I find the most benefit in conversation is in community. Twitter. I'm on Twitter. I engage in Twitter with people that are interesting. So the editors of the BBC education reports, I respond to those people. I respond to the head teachers. I re-quote other people. Like, are they popular people on Twitter? No. Do they have lots of followers? No. Do I get lots of likes on those tweets? No, because I don't care. I want to have a conversation with people. And I was saying this to someone at the funeral yesterday. Well, not at the funeral, but before the funeral and the wake afterwards. People on social media love the likes, the dislikes, the retweets, the reposts, the subscribers, the followers, all the vanity metrics. But those people don't actually talk. they talk with people at the same level as them.
Yeah.
Which means,
and then that's it.
Yeah, which means they have the same money, the same fame, that there's something for them to benefit on. But that is doing exactly what they say shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Because most of the people that are doing that, they come from the, we're oppressed, we're in a system, we need to fight down the system, we need to go against XYZ thing because these are all bad things. But then when they have the money, the prestige, the popularity, the whatever that those other people have up there, they do the exact same things. And I'm like, hypocrite. Oh, I don't have the time to be engaged in my community because I'm doing all of these podcast things, or I'm doing all of these interviews, or I run all of these business things. And like, so you're doing exactly what you don't like other people doing. Hypocrite. Behavioral integrity. Like, I understand it from a business perspective.
Oh yeah.
But ethically, I cannot condone it. Which is why I sit in my little bubble down here in the community, in the trenches, doing the work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where I think the videos are. The people making the videos are the people doing the work.
Absolutely.
Anything else you want to add?
No.
No.
See you next week.
Bye.